Hello everyone, welcome back. A question came up today. Is it possible for the chamber of your Lynx 12 to get hot enough to melt the plastic shell cases? And the answer to that is absolutely yes, specifically after 4 or 5 of these 10-round magazines back to back. Okay? Now the way I've experienced this is on many occasions I've been called to different locations to train a group. And I will typically show up with these 100-round value packs, right? And I will show up with a lot of these 10-round magazines, and I will, basically I'll be training people and rotating them up to the gun so they can shoot. And what I have seen after 4 or 5 of these magazines, they'll usually be a jam. Now the nature of the jam is also usually user error related. What will happen is they won't be holding the gun like tight in their chest to hold it loose. The gun will move around, so there will be a feeding issue related to that as well. But then what I will observe when I look in the chamber and the shell is starting to enter, right at the point that it goes in and it stops, I will see that the shell in this upper corner here is starting to melt. It'll actually take a slant and it'll deform. I have no doubt that if I chambered the entire shell and let it sit in that hot chamber, that the whole shell would start to melt away, and it would just create a mess inside of the chamber. Okay, so it takes 4 to 5 of these 10-round magazines. So basically, we're talking about 50 rounds. Okay. So this brings up another question that's come up many times about whether or not the Lynx 12 or similar, right, or Sega 12 or some other AK style shotgun, whether they're a good choice for home defense. And this is one additional reason why it's probably not. I have talked about possible issues of quality control from guns coming from China. Although these guns are very reliable, I don't know if the guns that they're going to ship to you, or how reliable they're going to be if they went through the same quality control process. I do not know that. It's made in some other country that we don't get to examine their facilities. Okay? So aside from that, there's the issue that after 40 to 50 rounds, the chamber is going to get hot enough that it will start melting. It will start melting the shell. Okay. Now, if we compare that, let's say, to an AR-15 or an AK-47, first of all, AR-15s and AKs, right, standard 30-round magazines, right? So compared to, okay, 30 rounds in the Lynx 12 compared to 30 rounds in an AR-15, obviously there's a bulk issue here. There's a weight issue here because shell cases are a lot heavier. There's a volume issue. So that's the first issue. But people will very easily shoot 3 of these, right? So three of these 30-round magazines. That's 90 rounds. They will easily shoot 3 of these, and they can still continue to shoot more, right? In fact, it's very common for people to shoot 6 of these 30-round magazines. At that point, usually the rail will start getting really hot. If it's an aluminum guard, they're usually not going to be able to hold it. But that's now a problem with just the gun getting so hot that you can't hold it. It's not a problem with the cartridges inside of the chamber, starting to melt, right? Because it's a metallic cartridge. Okay, so even if you're just shooting 3 of these, that's 90 rounds. So you can easily shoot 3 of these 90 rounds, and you can leave around the chamber, and you're not going to have a problem as long as it's brass. If it's steel case ammo in an AR-15, it is possible that you're going to have an extraction problem if you let a steel case cartridge sit in there, right? That's specific to steel case 223 rounds, because they're straight wall, right? AK-47 rounds, they're a little bit more slanted like this, so they don't have that problem with steel case. They don't have that extraction problem. Also with an AK, if you get a cartridge stuck in there, you have a charging handle. You can basically just kick start it with your foot to get it out, right? You don't have that option with an AR-15. So usually with an AR-15, I recommend brass ammo only for home defense, or where you're going to be doing a very high volume of shooting, where you're shooting 3 to 6 magazines, right? But we can do that with ARs and AKs. We cannot do that with the Lynx 12, right? 4 to 5 mags, and then we have to rotate the gun. We have to go to a second gun. So a lot of times, what will happen is I will get called to different locations to, let's say, train a group of people. I'll show up with these 100-round value packs, right, and a whole bunch of these magazines over here. And what I will usually do is, I will shoot 4 to 5 of these mags, right? 4 to 5 of these mags, and then I will rotate the guns, all right? So I'll go to the other gun, giving the other gun a chance to cool down. So I'll rotate the guns so they have a chance to cool down, and that's how I'm able to, do a high volume of shooting with the Lynx 12. Now, I guess the same would apply to an AR or an AK, right? At some point, if you fire enough rounds, I mean, you're never going to get to the point where you can possibly have a cook-off, right, with a semi-automatic AR or AK. But you will get to the point where the gun might become too hot to hold. And in which case, yeah, it's not a bad idea to always have a second gun, right? It's always good to have 2 ARs, 2 AKs. More guns is always better. All the reason why we always keep a backup gun, right? We always have an AR and a pistol. Those 2 guns match up. But certainly in a home defense type of situation, the best backup to an AR is another AR, right? But anyway, that's my experience. I've experienced it both with the Lynx 12s. I've experienced it with the Cheetah 12s, which were terrible guns. I got rid of those. And I also experienced it with the Sega 12s that I had before that. So with any semi-automatic shotgun, if you shoot it fast enough, the chamber is going to get hot enough where it's going to, where'd it go? I lost the shell. It's going to get hot enough that it's going to melt the shell cases, especially if you leave it in the chamber after you shoot it. So let's say in a zombie apocalypse type of situation, right, where the zombies are invading your house, right? You go through 4 or 5 of these magazines, right? You think you got all the zombies. Well, now you got to clear your gun. You can't leave a live round, a live shell in your chamber because it's going to start melting. So you got to take that shell out, let the gun cool down, and then if the zombies come back, you got to basically reload a mag, rechamber around. Whereas with an AR or an AK, after 4 or 5 of those magazines, you can still leave a round in your chamber, and all you gotta do is take the safety off and get back to work if you need to. So a couple things for you guys to think about. If you got any of your own comments, any of your own experiences, put it in the comment section. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. Talk to you guys soon.